You like that, right? So,
I thought I was like, as soon as it came on, I'm like, I've heard this.
yeah, probably from the last time we had you on. But anyway, real quick, welcome back, everybody. Episode number 33. The intro, I even wrote down. It's been a long time. We shouldn't have left you, but we did. In the words of Rakim or whatever. But just excited to be back. Episode 33. Before we jump into today's guest and we start getting moving, just a couple house cleaning things. Please, by all means, go to the website, www.thedetroitlocal.com. Check out our t-shirts, sweatshirts, winter hats, crew necks, tank tops, everything. That's how we fund the podcast. That's how we can pay our producer. That's how we can book studio time. It's sincerely appreciative. I appreciate it very much. You can also go over and check out City Bird, where we have our What Up Doe Christmas crew neck. Just got picked up. There's a ton of them over there, as well as holiday cards, just all kinds of stuff. So again, welcome back. Episode 33, recording and broadcasting live from Take Detroit Studios inside of Eastern Market in the beautiful, wonderful metropolis of Detroit, Michigan, my hometown. Ugh, I love it here, right? So, introducing today's guest, man about town. We've had him on before. I think he was on episode 30, possibly. Founder of Ride Detroit, Electric Avenue Bikes, official tour guide, Murals in the Market, founder of Slow Roll. Have you heard of it? I'm sure I'm missing stuff. Mr. Jason Hall.
Thank you, man. I mean, yeah, man. I mean, kind of like hearing you say all those things sounds crazy because, yeah, it's always evolving. I got so much stuff going on right now. It's hard to even talk about the past because I got so much stuff going on now.
Yeah, well, so last time we had you on, it was only like 30 minutes, and we'll probably have a tight time constraint again today, but we were a little rushed. And so I'm hoping that we can do maybe a little bit more of a deep dive and really find out, start to peel back the layers of Jason Hall, because people see you out, you're super nice. Everyone says what up to you and you're cool. You talk to everybody, yeah. But I think very rarely do people in your position get a chance to maybe show a different side of you, right? You know what I mean? Everyone knows you for these things. But I feel like you and I are starting to build a little bit more of a rapport where, we're talking about your daughter, competitive gymnastics.
She's a competitor.
Yeah. So I mean, there's just so much that I find interesting and enthralling about you. So I guess maybe we just start off. Where are you from? Like your early life? You know what I'm saying?
It's crazy. I usually go back to like growing up in Rosedale Park. I grew up, but that was actually my later years growing up. Before that, I grew up on Evergreen and Plymouth, man. Actually, like before that, my parents got some money.
Sure.
Like we're talking 80s. My parents were just working at Chrysler and working at the UAW, so we lived in a regular house. And even back then, that was starting to shape me. There wasn't like I was thinking about it the other day. I'm like, was there a moment or a time that I can remember where like, things were any different? I mean, we might have had a little more money. Like I said, I definitely give a shout out to Rosedale Park, but that was really actually just a small part of my life. I grew up actually more on the West Side, like I said, and this is one of the first times I really actually talk about, not that I've been embarrassed, but Rosedale Park was such a monumental part of my life. Yeah. Because that's where I really started skateboarding and riding bikes and like doing all that. Oh man, I was a skateboarder.
You shred the gnar?
I was a skateboarder for many. I still get out there. I don't call it skateboarding now. I call it throwing myself at the ground.
Yeah, sure. With style, though.
Yeah, my daughter, she wants to skate, so I'm down to give her that. But no, but growing up on Auburn and Evergreen, that was actually where I got my adventurous side of biking.
Okay.
That was where I had the side of the street I wasn't supposed to go on. Yeah. When my parents went to work, because they worked from 9 to 5. That's where I did my thing, like the bike really took me all over the city.
Yeah, I wasn't allowed to cross Warren and Cadieux. That's where the same deal. Man, and the bike, that it's such an integral part of, I don't want to say Detroit youth transportation, but it really is. You know what I'm saying? So like, that two wheels takes you places that you're certainly not walking through. You're not, you know what I mean? So
absolutely. I remember my mom like leaving the house and me being like, we're out of here.
Yeah.
Like we're on an adventure. Like we, even if it was a mile, it felt like we were going on a crazy adventure. And so the majority of stuff,
You were
and my
like
mom
7
hates
years
to hear
old.
this, absolutely.
Yeah.
But the majority of stuff like that I got into, and when I was like finding out about Detroit, was on my bike, just like pushing the boundaries of where I wasn't supposed to go and going into those areas.
So it's almost from a young age, it was an extension of your personality and who
yeah.
you were, right?
Mhm.
So you started off on a bike pretty early. Where'd you go to like grade school?
So
Like I'm saying, let's go
Yeah.
way back, and then
Yeah.
we're just gonna build because I know you are.
I had a crazy, now that I think about it, it's crazier in hindsight. So I went to Horace Mann School on the west side for 1 year in kindergarten. And then after that, I went to St. Suzanne on the west side till 6th grade. And then in 6th grade, I was started getting in trouble because I was not focused. So I actually ended up transferring to a friend's school in Detroit, downtown.
I'm very familiar with Friends. Absolutely.
So I transferred to Friends, and the plan at the time was to go to Friends through high school, because at the time Friends actually went from nursery school all the way through
up.
12th grade. And so I was like, I'm going to go
That's
there.
a good school too.
Right?
It was a great
So
school.
I was going to transfer over there, but then they killed the high school when I was in 7th grade.
They probably had like 10 kids enrolled at the time.
I had 3 kids in my 7th grade class. And so, but in high school, I think they had like for real 8.
Yeah.
And that was 9 through 12.
Yeah,
So it was a
and
weird
nobody lived
situation.
down here, like in that area at the time.
No.
So
I was
people
definitely coming from the west side.
exactly, and
Yep.
that's how they had to draw kids in. And I
Yep.
mean, once you get to 7th in high school, I mean, that's a pretty tough deal to have your parents drive you all the way down here.
My
and
mom
back
worked
and-
downtown. She worked at the UAW, and
Yeah.
so and my mom and dad, so it was actually convenient for them to drop me off on their way to work.
Yeah.
So it was kind of cool. So I did that. Then I graduated from there, and I went to Renaissance High School for 1 year. Hated it. Got in like 5 fights that year because being a
It's all
black,
political.
being a black kid with dreads, man, wasn't hit.
Really?
Oh man, back then, like that was a punishable offense. Like
Really?
riding a skateboard in 1990, 89, 90.
Well, riding a skateboard, absolutely.
But like, yeah, man, absolutely having Doc Martens, like these are all reasons I absolutely got in fights and got kicked out of school.
Yeah.
know what
So
I
you kind
mean?
of felt like you maybe didn't belong.
No,
you
they
just couldn't find your place
No, they
there.
were like, you got to go. They were
Really?
like, they were like,
Yeah.
they didn't kick me out, but they were like,
It's time
it was
to
one of
go.
those like, I think Jason would be better suited, and it was because I had just come from an environment of 3 kids in my 8th grade class,
Right.
and then all of a sudden I'm in a 35 kid class, and so like all of a sudden I had room to fuck up. Excuse me.
You can swear on
I
this.
had room to screw up, you
Yeah.
know? And so once I backed up and went back to a smaller class situation, I excelled.
Yeah.
You know, I always loved school. I just hated the people in it.
Sure.
You know,
Sure.
I never got along really with the kids in high school. That
See, and it was the opposite for me. I got along with the people in high school, but I just didn't enjoy the aspect of school. I think that's a lot of people. It's such a weird time in everybody's life. Like you're going through so many different changes and you're just looking to try to belong. And then you feel like an outsider already. Like I couldn't imagine you're going to Renaissance, dreads on a skateboard, not feeling like you're really fitting in. And did that seem to affect once you got back into like the smaller class size, which obviously DPS isn't known for having small
I
focused
had to go
class
back
sizes.
to private school. I went to Bishop Borges, which
You went to Bishop Borges?
which they jokingly call the public private school, because I think I saw more fights at Bishop Borges.
Yeah, you were
and more
right down the road
violence.
from my high school. I went to U of D.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
absolutely.
I absolutely, and I say that I saw more violence at Bishop Borges than I saw in any DPS school.
Really?
Absolutely.
Is Bishop? That's closed now, right?
Yeah, I think it turned into a grade school, and then I think it closed. But it was, you know, it had so much potential, but it was just a really weird time in America.
Yeah.
It was the 90s. We
Well,
were
and all
going-
Catholic schools are closed now. That were,
Well, you know-
I'm not gonna say all are closed, but they had a huge enrollment problem. They have a huge social problem. Like,
well, the 90s, you got gangs.
Yeah.
We're kind of doing their thing. So you've got, you know, these kids are going to school, but they're playing gang or in gang. And then like, you know, carjacking culture was huge at the time. I mean, it was really a tumultuous time in Detroit. And so it was, yeah, man, it was hard.
yeah. So okay, so you finish high school,
Yeah.
you graduate. Your first couple years after high school, did you go to college? Did
No,
you
screw
jump
up.
right into work?
I jumped right into hanging out with all my homies every day.
Yeah.
No,
Great plan.
No, I was a little more focused than that. I mean, I wasn't I started working at St. Andrews. I had
Really?
I grew up hanging out at St. Andrews.
Right.
What I call my older brothers were already set. You know, I'd already been sneaking in there and didn't get.
Well, about what year was this, you think? When
When
you
I
were
started
working
there?
Yeah, both,
Oh,
whatever.
92, man. I mean,
Okay.
literally, like I graduated from high school, and I think I graduated from high school in May. I was working at St. Andrews in no later than June.
Do you recall any shows that you caught at St. Andrews that just blew your mind around that time, you know?
I tell you what, at that time,
Like, was it the
St.
Shelter? The
Andrews-
Shelter was-
St.
yeah.
Andrews and the Shelter were like the junior varsity for bigger grounds. So anybody who was on
Yeah.
their way up came through St. Andrews. So I've seen Hole with 3 people in the crowd. I've seen Oasis. I mean, you name literally any band, Pearl Jam, you name any band.
Wow.
I saw Nirvana at the Blind Pig. You know what I mean? In
In Ann Arbor.
I mean, but like that, I mean, St. Andrews and all those bands had to come through there. So the
Yeah.
things that I saw, once again, on the like cultural side of things, I mean, St. Andrews at that time was a melting pot of everything that was great. You had 3 floors of fun, and everything that was happening on every floor was groundbreaking in Detroit.
Yeah.
You had techno, and obviously techno.
The
was
beginning
doing
of
its
techno,
thing,
yeah.
You know, and
it's
then
the
you
beginning
have
of it.
the hip hop floor. You've got house shoes spinning down there, and all the
Shout
hip
out
hop
House
shows
Shoes.
coming through there. And then you've got the punk rock floor downstairs, and that like set the standard for really alternative music. So I grew up kind of in a great time. But 92, I was working at St. Andrews. I was 240 pounds of fat ass, ready to fight.
And just tons of fun
So
and love,
angry,
yeah.
so angry.
Really?
Yeah, man. I mean,
You don't strike me as and obviously, you know, you're young angst at that time. You don't strike me as somebody who would be were you just mad at the world at that point, you think?
I was a little kid until high school. Like high school, all of a sudden, I started to grow up and get bigger. And then I think my ego got bigger because I had, like I said, older brothers I was already hanging out with.
right.
So like by the time I got to like through high school and had so many fights and altercations, I was just angry youth.
Just didn't give a
man. It
fuck.
was-
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So by the time I got to St. Andrews, I was just ready to take it out on the world. Because
Yeah.
basically what St. Andrews did is gave me a gold card to do
To
whatever.
do that. Yeah. Were you working security?
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
like definitely there were kids that came through and I was like, yo, that motherfucker fuck with me in algebra. And then they got to the door and they'd be like, I'd be like, you can't come in here. And
Yeah.
they'd be like, what? And I'd be like, you can't come in here. And they'd be like, what? And I'd be like, and then like 10 big dudes would come from behind. And
Yeah.
I'd be like, now what? And then we'd beat the shit out of them. And it was just like, that was
You
me
shouldn't
for
have
the-
copied my
the
homework.
first shit. No, it wasn't even that, man. Like, you know, like I said, like, you know, I was riding a skateboard and having dreads back
Yeah.
then. That was considered white. Believe
Yeah.
it or
Oh,
not.
and I absolutely understand
You
that.
know, that was considered trying to assimilate to Caucasian culture back then.
Yeah.
You know, and
And really, you're just trying to find out who you are as a
I
person,
was just
you know?
being me. And
Yeah.
and obviously I'm, you know, but once again, once I got into a position of power and I knew I couldn't lose.
Yeah, you flexed it a little bit, maybe
I
too much.
definitely, absolutely
Yeah.
too much.
You know, that's my one regret, and I say this all the time. And if anybody out is listening, I know I've reached out to a couple people about this, but my one regret as a kid was not learning how to skateboard, because I feel like it is such a cool hobby, and I see people even today. I see people just tearing up and down Woodward and just kick flipping shit and grinding, and I'm like, oh, and I'm 36 now. I'm not going to say it's too late for me to learn. Because
it's too
it's
late.
too late for me to learn. Yeah,
Bones
just put
break
on
a lot different than they do when you're a little kid.
yeah. They
you
don't
know.
heal quite as quick.
Trust me. Ask my
Bikes
boy.
are enough.
Ask my boy Rick Williams about that. Rick, who used to, co-owner of Burn Rubber back in the day. I
Yeah.
remember Rick was like, yo, I'm trying to learn how to skateboard. And I was like, Rick, you're like 20, like 25, like you're,
Even that's a
and
little
he,
too far.
And he was like, yo, I really want to do this. I think like 2 weeks later, he either broke his ankle or his knee,
Yeah,
and that was it.
yeah, that would be it.
And that was it. Like he was like off his feet for a long time. But like a kid, they don't
bounce back,
They
yeah.
don't give a shit.
Wrap it
know?
up, rub some dirt on it.
Man, my daughter the other day, she was laughing at a little girl who that thought she broke her arm.
Yeah.
And my kid goes, I broke my arm last year. Duh. So little kids don't care about that shit. So you miss work. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You got to check on your insurance.
And I'm in the office. Yeah, I've got great insurance, so I'm not worried about that. But what I am worried about is the pain of breaking a bone and not being able to.
Just play Tony Hawk, man, and enjoy it.
Did you do you have the new Tony Hawk?
Absolutely.
The 1 and 2.
Finished it in 2
man.
days.
My favorite one of those was like the Tony Hawk Underground.
Uh-huh.
That was my favorite one for
Okay.
sure. I like that one.
This one's 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And so it's all the classic stuff, man. So it's just dope to be if you played Tony Hawk back in the day, it's the same.
Bam Margera was my guy on that. But he's not in the first 1 and 2. He was in like Underground 2 and all that.
Yeah. No, I definitely played Underground. It was competing with Skate at the time, and I tried to stay loyal. I think I fell off with Skate.
I didn't like Skate. That was the first one that they used both joysticks to do kickflips. That was big. I loved the skate culture. I grew up, but like you said, it wasn't. Even in my school when I was a kid, around that same time, it wasn't like considered a cool thing. You know what I mean? You're like a skeevy skater guy.
Not even close, man. That was that was part of skateboarding, is buying into the subculture, which is that.
Yeah.
And so like at that time, it wasn't like, yo, it's cool, let's go to the skate park. It was more or less like, yo, I'm buying into the fact that I'm probably going to get in a fight today because somebody's going to call me
adolescent delinquency,
and like, and these are my homeboys.
Yeah.
And that's my crew. That was
Did you have a skate crew?
Absolutely.
Do you remember the name?
Team of Wheat.
Team of Wheat?
Like cream of wheat?
Yeah.
But Team
No,
of
we
Wheat.
get it.
Yeah. Team of Wheat. I don't know.
Check out the DetroitLocal.com /shop for the new Team of Wheat skater t-shirts coming soon.
It was the little guy. It was the guy who had the like hot bowl, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but I think he was holding a hot skateboard, like a hot wheel.
That actually kind of tight. Yeah.
My homie Mike, I'm sure he could throw that together for you like we used to do in high school.
Why not, right? See, I'm sure I would buy one for sure, man. So we're working at St. Andrews. It's like 92, mid 90s. What happened between that and then your first big break, I guess we could call it, would be Slow Roll would be.
Man, my first real like. A lot of people.
I don't know, professional break you call it.
Like, people think that like Slow Roll like put me on the map, and it really did on an international level. Don't get me wrong, but I actually did a commercial for Pure Michigan years before that. Hold on,
you're fine.
So they called my homie Anthony Garth called me one day, and he's like, "Yo, we're doing this commercial for Pure Michigan. We want you to be in it." I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about, man.
Pure what?
And so he's like, Steve Eiserman's gonna be in it, Mitch Albom, and I'm
Slow
like,
down, Steve Eiserman.
Yeah, right.
Tell me more.
So I'm
that's my guy.
I'm like, how, you know? And so I'm like, okay, of course. I didn't get paid, but I went to Joe Louis, and they threw a bag of peanuts, and I caught it, and I was supposed to be representing the fact that Michigan grew peanuts, which I didn't know either.
We grow peanuts.
There you go.
I didn't know that.
Know that either. I'm the ambassador.
We need to go to a Michigan peanut farm.
Ambassador for peanuts, right here. So I catch the bag and I go, peanuts. Okay, so like before like all this jazz, I was already like, right. So that was like the joke that was like my beginning. You know, like I did that commercial, and then me and Joe Gall, we did a Red Bull commercial, and I think that aired like maybe during another Super Bowl or something. I mean, it was another crazy football air. Mm-hmm. So like, you know, I was not building, but I've always had this idea that that'd be fun.
Yeah.
And so I always dip my toe in it.
Yeah. And one opportunity begets the next, begets the next.
Yeah. So like I did that and I did that. And then I started working at Channel 4. And so when you start working at Channel 4, that was like the end, you know, that was the end to a lot of stuff.
And now you're surrounded by the entertainment,
Carmen Harlan, Devin Skillion. I mean, like that's, you know, the cream of the crop. You know, I was learning from the best just watching them. And then
Bernie Smilovitz.
Bernie, man, you know. Then I learned how to direct, and then it just became this relationship. And people always say I'm really good on camera, and I can say I'm always good if I am. I don't know if I am, but if I am, it's because of what I did behind the camera.
I'd say you're doing all right. Like in general, considering, you're good on camera, buddy.
This is like 15 years of, like I said, people think it's 5 years. This is 15 years of like,
let's say it takes 10,000 hours to make an overnight success.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Like, for sure, dude. Like, and when I was doing those commercials, I was like still trying to be that big Willie dude. Like, yo, I'm in a Red Bull commercial. But
does anybody want any peanuts?
Peanuts,
you know me? Can you peanuts?
People made fun of me for that for so long. Like they would just come.
And they're going to again, so that's kind of cool.
But I was in a Pure Michigan commercial, so whatever. Like that was. I was like, you're making fun of me for being in a Pure. I was next to Mitch Albom. Like I said, your boy Eiserman. Like I met Steve Eiserman.
That is my boy. I've got it. That's
you know. What are you talking about? Like how many people can say they were in a commercial with Steve Eiserman?
Yeah, not many. Not many, dude. I still remember the first time I met Steve Eiserman, and he looked right at me, and you know what he said? "Where we looking, kid?" And I'll never forget that. So you know what I'm saying? Because I was like, "Whoa, oh my god!" So
cool.
like we talk about dream interview guests
Yeah.
and dream gets, that's like number one on my list.
Stevie Y.
Yeah, and that's totally that's
That's doable.
obtainable. Yeah, that's
I
obtainable.
was like, that's doable.
Well, yeah, I mean, we talked to Andrew Yang. He's ran for fucking president.
Saying, dude.
You know, so we can get
Stevie Eiserman is
Yeah.
completely doable.
yeah.
Put that
Steve
on the list.
Eiserman, shout.
To the list.
All right, so now we're up through your first 2 commercials.
yeah.
You're working at Channel 4,
Channel 4.
and you're starting to I don't know, build upon your previous experience.
Well, actually, yeah, I was actually just starting to get really disillusioned with working in television. You know,
That's what my degree is in
Yeah.
was television broadcasting. And before I even finished my degree, I felt like, okay, I don't think this is for me. And I'm not sure if it was because of there wasn't a lot of room at the time to be creative and to do your own thing. It was you can work on the news and you can work behind the camera. And if you want to do any of that, you have to start somewhere, not Detroit, not even Grand Rapids. You're up, you know, in the UP, Northern Michigan News at 9 or something, you know? So yeah, so you got disillusioned with it, which is totally understandable.
You know, it's crazy. You know, when I went to school and I graduated, I had a couple of really monumental things happen. And I don't really talk about a lot of these, so this is pretty rad.
Thank you.
9/11 happened when I was in broadcast school.
Wow.
Like
Specs
I was-
Howard?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was literally in school, like watching it happen. Okay. So when that happened, I was like, I'm gonna like, I thought I was gonna be that guy. I was gonna put on some war stuff, go and just be in the field, you know.
War correspondent.
And then I got the job at Channel 4, you know, which is great. But then I never got to fulfill that part of me that wanted to be not in the war, but just like out
In the
making a
action.
difference, you
Yeah.
know. And then the shooting happened at Channel 4. Okay. So when I was working at Channel 4, a good friend of mine was actually shot by somebody who thought that the cameras at Channel 4 was watching him. A schizophrenic man came into the station and shot my,
Oh, my
friend
goodness.
in the lobby.
I vaguely remember this.
I was pretty much the second or third person to the body.
Oh, my
I mean, he's
goodness,
alive,
Jason.
not to the body, but to John.
Yeah.
And
But at the time, yeah, you're to the
yeah, you know, I was actually in between walking. I was walking to the studio, and I remember that day. You know, they came to me and they said, "Jason, snap out of it. You know, you're here to do a job." And I went back to work. And the whole time I was
What?
thinking, where am I at? What am I doing? My friend is, you know, all this is going on around me, but I'm really counting. I'm counting you
Yeah,
down.
in
Like,
5, 4,
it's like,
3.
this is. And so I
take
was
it
just like,
away.
that was when I started, like I said, started to like look in things at a different perspective. Those two things,
Which isn't even necessarily television. It's just somebody that maybe at the time is trying to get you out of it, like to focus your energy on something else. But if something like that just happened,
yeah,
it can be understood if you take the day off. You know?
no day off. We went on and we stayed on. I mean, continuously. And so you just sort of put stuff in perspective, man. And so I was working at the station for a long time, and I decided I wanted to see the world a little bit more.
Mhm.
And I didn't care how that happened. So there was a job listing for a job in South Beach, Miami. That was my compromise.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna go to war or South Beach.
Yeah. Well, you know, war with whatever, you know,
So I took a job in South
war
Beach.
with winter. That's
Yeah, I went down there for a little while. Hated that.
Why'd you hate it?
It just wasn't Detroit.
Yeah, I understand
you know,
that.
Like, you know, it's a very transient town, man. Everybody in South Beach is down there showing off.
Yeah,
They're not
for
from,
sure.
No one grew up in South Beach.
Right.
You might have grew up in Miami or whatever, Biscayne, whatever, but you didn't grow up in South Beach. So
Yeah.
everybody, and I lived in South Beach proper.
Yeah.
And
And
so
I might be the only person in the world that gets seasonal affective disorder in the summer. So South Beach would not be the place for me whatsoever.
Nah, man, it's if you're like, and I'm no disrespect, I don't give a shit. Miami's not the place for people who like. You might have a hard work ethic, but it's just not like ours, man. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? It's a different fuel. You know what fuels.
Well, there
you
it might
in
be for
Miami.
showing off, and here it's literally for survival.
You know what I'm
know
saying?
What I mean?
It is, and that's
Yeah.
what it is. And when I got there, I was just like, this is not me. So came back to Detroit after that. Luckily, well,
What
did-
this about
did-
2005, 2006?
Yeah. Did some time at in Toledo at two
Okay.
stations down there, and then ran into Carmen Harlan at a football game. And shout out to Carmen Harlan, one of my many mothers.
Well, she's a fixture in Detroit broadcast news.
Well, I tell
I mean,
you what
she's a
happened.
legend.
So I had tried to get my job back at Channel 4, but they didn't have a position. You know, like I
Right.
thought I was gonna come back, and
They'd be like,
I was
Jason, thank you so
yeah,
much.
right?
Yeah,
They
we
were
missed
like, nah,
you.
bro, we hired somebody else, right?
Yeah.
And so that's how I ended up in Toledo. Okay, so I'm at a Lions game, and Carmen comes up to me and she goes, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "Checking out the Lions game." And she's
Yeah.
like, "No, I mean in Detroit. Like, aren't you supposed to be in Toledo?" And I'm like,
It's like 30 minutes away.
"Well, I'm like, no, I'm actually home, you know, in Detroit." And she's like, "Well, why aren't you back at the station?" And I'm like, "Well, they didn't have a position for me."
Yeah.
And she goes, "Yeah, they do."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "No, they don't." The next day, they called me and they said, "Hey, you got
Come on
friend,
back.
you
Good
must
for
have a
you."
friend at high places because a position just opened up."
Yeah.
And I went back to work at Channel 4, which is
Water always
been my
finds
home.
its level, man. That's
You know?
wonderful.
And then I let him down again, and I left like a year later because of slow roll.
That's not no. See,
I
that's
didn't let him
not.
down, but you know,
didn't let him down, but yeah, I'm sure they were probably like again.
right? No, for sure.
There's do you ever watch the show Parks and Rec?
Oh yeah,
There's a whole running gag where Ben keeps going back to the accounting firm, and they like think he's gonna like get hired, and they're like finally, and then he's like, oh sorry, I
Yeah,
can't. I
yeah.
imagine that finally they're just like, what the hell,
Yeah,
man?
yeah.
Almost had him this time.
and for a bike ride.
Yeah,
none
yeah.
less. You know, like they were like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm leaving to go run this bike ride."
Yeah. So okay. So we've gotten up to slow roll.
Yep.
We're in it. It's I'm obviously familiar with it.
Yep.
How did that start? I know it started as just a weekly bike ride, like a very simple
Yeah.
slow roll to slow jams, I believe was the name of
Yep.
that.
Yep. We were sitting at the time.
Who's we?
Mike McCool, who started Slow Roll with me. We were hanging out all the time, man. We were playing Call of Duty at night. We were riding bikes during the day. It was just like a kid's relationship all over again.
Yeah.
For some reason, I was just like, we were like adventuring on bikes. And then
Well, isn't
coming
it
home.
funny how like you look back at days like that, and at the time you're not realizing that that's the golden age of
Yeah.
like, oh man, if yeah, you just look back and think, we didn't have a care in the world. We were just kids playing video games, riding
that way.
bikes. Yeah,
Let's
yeah,
go
yeah.
that way.
Had a couple bills, but you're paying them, whatever. Probably had a roommate or something, you know.
Yeah, man. No, we were just chilling, and there was not a bunch, but there were a couple bike rides that already existed in Detroit, and we just weren't into them because they just were
Well, bike
really-
culture hadn't really taken off yet here.
Well, I mean, it hadn't taken off, but I mean, the wheelhouse was open. I mean, critical mass was going down, so, and that was the ride that turned us off. Really,
Well, critical mass isn't slow roll. That's the thing.
no, that's
it's
what
completely
made,
different.
I will tell you, that's what made slow roll. Like it when I remember, I think my last critical mass, I was watching this guy just pee in a bush.
What?
Right? Yeah, man. No, right there. Like, and then I was watching people finish their beers and just throw them right on like toss them on the grass. And all this littering was going down, and I was just like, this is a microcosm of Detroit at that time. And I'll say it, critical mass was a majority Caucasian led situation, and it was people that were coming down from the suburbs and all over the place, and they had no one to police them and say, don't treat my city like this,
Right.
because nobody leading critical mass was from the city, so nobody had any loyalty to it. And that's what offended me, as I was
Yeah.
like, if people from Detroit were running this wouldn't be going down.
No, we'd probably layer it in with
You-
something.
you-
We'd probably pick the shit up, clean
know-
it up.
You know what I'm saying? We would definitely not allow people to do what was going down. So I think Mike and I were like, you know what, let's just start we weren't even like, let's start our own critical mass. We were like, let's just start our own ride to ride.
Yeah,
We
we're
were
just gonna
like-
go ride with our
Yeah,
friends.
we were like, and honestly, we were like, if our friends ride, cool. If they don't, they can get it too.
Yeah,
You know what I
whatever.
mean? Like
Yeah.
we were like, let's just have fun living. You know, I think at that time we were probably going through the stresses of life that everybody else probably was going
Yeah.
through.
How old
like,
were you at this time?
Definitely in my 30s, late 30s, probably. You know,
Yeah.
I'm 46 now. I'm not afraid to say it, but 10 years, so 35. Yeah, around
Yeah.
35. But I was just
What was the
burned out.
tipping point? You know what I'm saying? Like you're with Mike and you're on a bike ride. Then 2 weeks later, there's 5 more people, and then there's 10 more people. Then is it like the I don't know what the rule is where it's like where it doubles like 2,
Yeah.
4, 8, 16, 32, 64,
Yeah. I honestly don't-
128.
I honestly don't even remember. I don't remember I remember the first time we hit 40 people, because I remember saying to Mike, and this is the God honest truth, I remember saying, all right, man, we got a lot of people, dude. What are we going to do?
Yeah,
And
40.
him being like, I don't know, dude. Let's talk about this later. This is getting out of control.
yeah,
like 40
We
was-
got to have some type of plan,
we were like
contingency
40.
plan.
And then after that, it just, I don't know. It just started to, I think it was a combination of Slow Jams was doing its thing. Shout out to those dudes. No, you know. And then the Shack, which was across the street from Woodbridge Pub, was having parties going down over there. Our boy Andrew was throwing
Right.
parties. So it was like this perfect whirlwind of spot and like fixed gears were coming up in the
Fixies, yeah.
in the game, you know. So like people were riding bikes, you know. So like, you know, and then all of a sudden, when we made it Detroit, instead of like we took it away from those people, and that was a big thing, man. Like for us, we were scared to leave Woodbridge because we felt like Woodbridge was our base,
Right.
and we felt like
You felt safe there, content there.
I didn't feel safe there. I mean, I actually hated, you know, I hated Woodbridge back then. I mean, I
I didn't mean like physically safe. I meant like you
I
like
didn't feel
you
safe at all. I was actually mad that like we were bringing 40 people there and they weren't even giving us a slice of pizza for free. So I
Right.
wasn't feeling safe at all. I was ready to bounce. But Mike was cool and they were being all right. But then once I said, let's make this Detroit. Vaughn, who used to own Anchor Bar, called me on the phone one day and he said, do you love me? And I said, of course, man. Why would you ask me that? And he said, how come you don't bring any of that money to my bar? Bing.
Yeah.
light
Great
bulb
idea.
went off.
Yeah.
He was the first bar to give us stuff. Okay, so he was like, yo, I'll give you guys a special at the bar. We'll name some food after you guys and make it a special. He was
Yeah.
like, the room next to me is renting right now, but you can bring your bikes in. We were like, we can bring our bikes in.
Yeah.
That was the first time any bar opened their arms to us and said, come be a part
Not
of
only are you welcome, but we want you.
Yep,
You're encouraged.
Yep. Even when we were going to Woodbridge, like I said, every week I would order a pizza and they'd be like $11. And I'd
Yeah.
be like,
Don't forget to tip.
are you for real, dude? Like, look outside.
Yeah.
You know, and it wasn't like we were trying to do it for free, but the vibe was just ruined on the fact that we were busting our butt at that time to really build something. And they were just like, well, if you bring it here, you bring it here. And if you don't, you don't. You
Yeah.
know?
I find the idea is so interesting that they're just, when people start to do something that they're passionate about, the universe has a way of pulling all these weird parts together and forming it into something completely new. And so to be on the precipice of, you have, 40, then 100, next thing you know, there's thousands of people, and it's just the right time, the right event, and just this perfect storm of intangible factors that play into a success story, especially in this city. Because I heard a joke that said, trying to get anything accomplished in Detroit is like trying to catch the greased up deaf guy on Family Guy.
Right.
It just doesn't, like, it's, you can do it, but it's going to be very difficult, and there's all these factors working against you.
Do it and then ask. There's that saying, and that saying literally exists for a reason. Ask for forgiveness. not permission.
It's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission.
We had already been hearing about like the city, being upset about us, but when
you got 10,000 people riding through the streets. That can be a little bit of a.
Well, what did it for us when we knew we were golden is when we found out we did the data and we were like, wait a minute, how much money do we put back into the city?
Yeah.
And so like the first time we were like, we got to put at least $1 million. And like, it was far beyond that.
At least.
But once the city recognized that we were bringing positivity,
Yeah.
to this day, they still haven't had a violent anything happen on that ride.
No.
Everybody comes together, and then they come down here and they spend money.
Yeah.
And we started it at a time where it wasn't like that. Like there wasn't all these fancy restaurants down here. LCA wasn't down here.
You had Anchor Bar.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We had Anchor Bar.
Yeah.
And so at a time where money wasn't coming downtown, we were inventing revenue for the city.
There was literally, and I remember this, there was one restaurant, and it's closed now, but it was an Italian one right on Broadway, and I can't even think of the name of it. So you're doing your thing, you're blowing up. Slow Rolls is doing just gangbuster numbers, right? So that leads right into one of the most fascinating things I think was that you were contacted by Apple to do a commercial. Mm-hmm. And I always thought until recently that, you did the Apple commercial and then they pay you the Apple commercial money and then, all right, see you later, right? But that's not what happened. You did the commercial, it aired, and then they sent you on basically like a worldwide tour.
First they asked me to just do, I think it was Chicago. They wanted me to go to 2 or 3 Apple stores to support the commercial coming out. All right. So like I said, I think it was Apple, maybe Portland.
And the commercial was just like, "Hey, I'm Jason Hall, and I use my iPad to do the bikes."
Yeah. And I told them they struck gold because I really legitimately used all that stuff. So
Yeah.
it wasn't contrived at all. But
You
so-
were already buying in before
oh,
they
yeah,
bought
I
into you.
I already had every
Yeah.
Apple, all the Apple products. But wait, we were talking about the
Apple commercial.
yeah.
You were about to go on a worldwide tour.
so, yeah, so-
Chicago.
So yeah, so it's Chicago, Portland, and like I think maybe Miami. Well, I guess other Apple stores started seeing the videos and just were like,
Mhm.
"Who is this dude?" So they called me and they're like, "Hey, do you want to do some more cities?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man. You know, as long as you guys book me, because
Yeah.
I'm going. You know."
Yeah.
And what they
Pay
were
my
paying
talent
me,
fee.
and what they
Yeah.
were paying me, I was like, "Absolutely."
So it was like Apple, your booking manager for all
yeah.
this?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. So Apple's taking care of everything. They're literally just calling me and saying, "Are you available these dates? This is where you're going. You know, cool." Well, then after I finished that, they called me and they said, "Hey, we have these things called Apple Distinguished Educator Conferences all over the world. Would you mind doing a couple of those?" And I'm
I
like,
guess.
and so, you know, that's where my first one was Mexico, you know, and then we do Brazil. And it's like, you know,
That's incredible.
it's a pretty surreal time, you know, because I'm once again like, I'm just the dude who started Slow Roll.
Yeah,
you know?
because you're only like a year, 2, 3 years.
ADEs,
of-
now that I think about it, might have even come a while after. Like there was a break like,
Okay.
between like I did the tour and then I did that tour and then I went to London with Shinola. I mean, I went to London
Jeez.
with Shinola. I went to Chicago and did
And-
some dates with Red Bull.
At any time during this, because I'm sure you have people surrounding you and, you know, people that want to be your friends that aren't really your friends and
Oh, yeah.
women and booze. Did you ever feel, not necessarily that you were, well, first, that you were getting lost in this as yourself? I know we talked about
Yeah.
this before, but also I a lot of times suffer from, I don't want to say suffer, like it happens, but from imposter syndrome, right? Where I think like I'm pulling the wool over somebody's eyes here. Like why are they paying me to do X, Y, Z? Is that something that faced you when you're on an overnight flight to Brazil? Or were you just like, at that time, you're probably thinking like,
No,
I like, this is me. This is what I do now.
you know, there was a couple different times where I used to be that guy. I used to be like very like people would be like thank you, and I was just like, oh, you know, I don't know, I'm just the guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this
You didn't buy
lady-
into yourself yet.
This lady one time she got so mad at me and she said, "Stop doing that." She said, "You know, you've done a lot for me, and you've done a lot for a lot of people. You need to own that and
Yeah.
be proud of who you are." And I was like, "Damn, okay." And then the other time was
And then
when
you just take it to the complete opposite end of the spectrum.
No, I definitely, but I definitely owned it then. I definitely like was like, you know what, I'm meant to be here.
Yeah.
Okay? After that, there was never a question in my mind. Was I supposed to be here? I
Yeah.
was supposed to be here.
And we
Like,
talked about the psychology of Apple, that they have teams of psychologists that tell you,
well, you
this is
talk
what's
to
gonna
one.
happen.
You talk
Okay.
to one. They got yeah. They make sure you talk to somebody and they make sure it's weird. I tell this story sometimes, but they tell you all the things that are gonna happen to you.
Yeah.
Just so it doesn't hit you coming. They're like, okay, you know, this commercial is gonna come out overnight. Your name's gonna be all over everybody's mouths, you know, tomorrow. The next day, some girls that you've never seen before in your life are gonna talk to you.
yeah,
All your quote unquote friends are gonna be closer to you, but really
Yeah.
they're not your friends.
looking for
So,
money, looking for something. Yeah.
man. And everything they told me was absolutely
Yeah.
true to the date.
And then you kind of get lost in that. You know what I mean? I don't want to say believe your own hype, but like you start, this happened to me when I my previous career. It was like, I just got completely, I lost who Mike was. I lost who like the core of who I was as, you know, a man, as a person, was completely morphed into like somebody that I didn't recognize. And when I was finally able to understand what I was acting like or projecting out into the world, it was like an eye-opening experience to say like, that's not me. I need to recenter, you know, bring it back to my my core, my medium. You know what I'm saying? So
No, I was definitely
that takes a big man to admit something like that too, you know?
yeah, you're on the road, man. And everybody's like, oh, it must have been so much fun, you know, it must have been, and it was because I'd never left the country, so it was amazing. But at the same time, there's nothing fun about being on a plane for 9 hours, getting off that plane, getting on a bike, having dinner,
And then riding,
and then doing it
15
again,
out.
and
Yeah.
then the next day you're trying to fit everything between, appearances. And I'm not trying to be that.
No,
dude,
you're fine. You're
but,
fine.
But
It
I'm
is-
saying, like I said, everybody thinks that life is fun, and it is fun being flown all over the world. Trust me. I'm not saying, but like, it's not what it's cut out to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
No one lands and spends a week in, Mexico and then comes home. It's you land. Here's the itinerary.
Yeah.
You're speaking at this university, so then now all of a sudden you're nauseous because you're speaking at a university.
Yeah.
even
And
though-
thousands of people. And yeah.
you know what I said the first time I walked out in Mexico? I said, this is really mind blowing. Well, no, I said, first of all, I had a translator on, which was crazy that I spoke into a mic and it translated to them that they
Wow.
had in their ears. I said, what's crazy to me is not only am I a representative of Apple, I'm a representative of Detroit, Michigan,
Mhm.
and I'm speaking at a college, and I didn't even finish it. I didn't even
Yeah.
finish college. I was like, this is crazy as shit right now. And I said that
Yeah.
through the mic. I said,
Only in America
Yep, I said,
and Mexico.
this is crazy right now. So like, and Apple, I even asked, could I say that? I'm like, I just need people
Yeah,
to
of
know
course.
that like that whole dreams can come true shit is real.
Yeah.
But there's work in it. Don't
Yeah.
be fooled. There's work in it.
Yeah. Takes 10,000 hours to make an overnight success.
You gotta catch peanuts in a Red Bull commercial or a Pure
Anybody
Michigan
got any
commercial.
peanuts?
You gotta catch them.
All right, so you get out of slow roll, and we won't stick on that for too much longer. You end up exiting there, and you move on to your venture right now of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Ride Detroit.
Yep.
And we didn't even talk about Murals in the Market yet, but we'll get there. So you're doing Ride Detroit right now. What is Ride Detroit? I think it's a great name, by
I
the
mean,
way.
you're going in order because Ride Detroit came slightly before,
Okay.
around the same time. All this sort of evolution, but Ride Detroit basically came out of, I stopped doing slow roll and I'm sitting around and it's almost like dating somebody for 10 years. After you
Mhm.
break up with them, you're like,
Still
who
part of your
am I?
life. Yeah.
But you're like, who am I? Like I've given everything to them. How am I supposed to go out here for
How do I
myself
define
now,
myself?
Right. And so I sort of said, well, what's sort of low hanging fruit here? Low hanging fruit is I made all the routes for slow roll for 10 years. So I feel like I have a fairly good grasp of
Mhm.
the city on a bike. And so at the same time, I was actually in touch with Michael Reuter, who owned American Cycle and Fitness. And we were just being friends. And then one day he said, have you ever thought about, maybe doing this? And I said, have you ever thought about maybe opening a bike shop in Detroit? And he said, I feel like we just said the same thing, So he's always been a great supporter of mine, and he said, you know what?
At American Cycle and Fitness?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, no matter what I've asked, really over the years, behind the scenes, people didn't even know that Michael's always been like the dude I talked to,
Pushing it forward, too.
And always been like, I'm down for whatever. And he was like, let's just go for it, man. Let's open this shop. We'll do e-bike rentals, which was a whole nother thing for me to get used to.
Yeah.
E-bike rentals over
That's
regular,
the future.
And then once you wrap your mind around that, but then giving tours is what I did on slow roll. But when slow roll got so big, I lost the ability to have the
To
conversation,
interact. Yeah.
and what
to
Ride
connect.
and what Ride Detroit is I don't do tours bigger than 25, and so now I have the ability to talk to people. And let's be real, like make a living doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're such a charismatic and magnetic personality of a person, that I think when you are able to keep that group a little bit smaller, people get to interact and get to know you on a different level, right? Much like how we're doing right now. This is all I find it fascinating, just how you have moved through all these things and still find a way to be able to connect and your next projects and all that. So you're on Ride Detroit, you're giving tours. Where can people learn more about that?
www.ride, not Ride Detroit, RI Detroit.
That would be Rided Detroit.
Right.
Would be that.
People always say Ride Detroit. It's RI Detroit. It's because the first four letters obviously are RIDE. If you took
No, I get it.
Sometimes people are like Ride Detroit. I'm like, I get it, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to be clever here, people.
I like the name. I think it's a good name.
It gets me in trouble. But
What are some of the tours that you're going through right now?
so I do a pizza tour.
I fucking love pizza.
Well, I love pizza.
I know.
I ate it every single day.
Well,
for
that's why. See,
2017.
we're not even going to get to that today.
These things happen. You got to do like part 2, part 5, because yeah, man. I mean, I ate pizza for a whole year, And that just plays into like the relevancy of who I am, because every year in the off season, I always try to find a way to stay relevant into the next season.
Yeah.
Okay, when you run a when you run a bike company, everybody knows the slow season is winter. You
Yeah.
know?
Of course.
So how I don't own a bike shop. Well, so people can't come back to that. So how do I stay in people's minds through that winter when they're not riding bikes with me? So if I eat pizza every single day, somebody's gonna talk about it.
Yeah.
And they did. You know, Viceland, Drew and Mike. You know, so
The Detroit local.
the Detroit local.
That's what I think when you say those big names. I think to the Detroit local.
Right up there.
So,
That's right up there. So no, I always just try to. People don't get that. You know, if you're in this game of marketing and relevancy and all that, people say to me, "Do you know everybody? You're always doing something." I'm like, "Yeah," because I work very hard to stay relevant all the time.
Yeah.
You know, and what I found is the best way to stay relevant is to stay always embedded in your community and giving back to your community.
Yes, I agree completely. And to be grounded, I always find as high as you want to reach, if you don't keep your feet firmly planted on the ground and try to make your community a product of you, not necessarily your community, not necessarily make yourself a product of your community, but try to influence that and do right by that. That is the most important thing to me. And I think I don't want to say that everybody should, I think it's a very Detroit concept because we have been excluded and ignored in different neighborhoods forever, you know, that people that grow up in our neighborhoods really and seem to make it a little, you know, have some taste of success, immediately want to come back and affect the community around them, whether that's, you know, an organization like Clark Park, an organization like the Urban Hockey Foundation,
Right.
you know,
Right.
and I, if I'm not mistaken, you're actually working on something pretty big right now.
Yeah, man. I'm, you know,
The floor
early-
is yours.
earlier this year, you know, they said to me, Jason, I need you to hire a black bike mechanic for the shop.
Okay.
You know, they said, you know, we don't have any, and we feel like we need to have more representation. And I said, absolutely. And so I tried to find a black bike mechanic
With experience.
with any experience for months, and I couldn't. And it dawned on me. Shout out to Donald Trump for thanking me. Not really shout out because of fucking anyway.
Yeah, you can say it.
Shout out. There's so much
Fuck
weird.
Donald Trump. I'll say
there's so
it.
much,
Shit.
Well, there's
I'm
so much
gonna lose
reverse-
listeners
there's
for
so much-
sure on my
but
end.
there's so much weird like reverse shit that like because of his like effed up stuff that like I brought back into like these.
I think it's called
weird-
trickle down economics.
these weird
Isn't that the
American
term?
values, but it dawned on me that America doesn't get that we can't say and we can't fall back on this doesn't exist. We have to create it. And so I could have easily said, oh, there's no black bike mechanic, so I'm just going to move on and get a white one.
Yeah.
But I said, no, it's my job
It is.
to go out and create more black bike mechanics, create more black bike engineers, all gambits
And
of
now, and do it
bicycle.
right now.
Absolutely. And so I, you know, once again, I'm a master of low hanging fruit. We have eight stores.
Mhm.
I said every year we're constantly looking for more minorities. I said, why don't we service our community by reaching into those communities and pulling?
It's not like you don't
people
have a
out?
pool to pull from. You know what I mean?
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so they said, absolutely. Like there wasn't even a conversation. Like American Cycle and Fitness was like, we're on board. And then I went to another great organization, the Downtown Boxing Gym.
Mhm.
And I said, hey, I know you guys have youth that are looking for, you know, some different ways of getting out of the situation. So
Yeah.
maybe this might be something they're into. They agreed, and we're lucky enough to be partnered up with them. And
Fantastic.
we're launching our program in January, man. And we're starting right now. I know it starts small with only 4 kids, but we got to start.
You
this.
start
We gotta
somewhere,
build
yeah.
this shit, you know, because I want to do it right. I don't want this to be like, hey, everybody, this is just some program.
Yeah.
I really want this to take.
You're invested
off.
in this.
Yeah, man, because I think that once people of color start to understand other jobs that exist outside of the cookie cutter stuff,
Mhm.
if they knew the type of money that is generated within the bicycle industry, they'd want a piece of that.
Yeah.
So it's my job to like get that information to them.
I think that's fantastic because a lot of kids in Detroit, and I personally am one of these kids that was not exposed to really any other type of career. It was you go to high school, you go to college, and then you get a job at an office, fucking selling insurance or something. You know what I mean? So I never knew that there were so many different avenues of becoming a professional in whatever field, right?
And think about what I'm talking about. Everything that I've achieved has all been through a bike.
Yep. Taking you
know,
around the world twice now, right?
You know, it might even be more than that, man. This thing will not stop spinning. Like one day, there's two motherfuckers that said, one guy said, enjoy your 15 minutes of fame. And I was like, yeah, that was literally 10 years ago, motherfucker. And then another dude told me last year, he said, what are you going to do when you're no longer the flavor of the month? I said,
reinvent the flavor.
Figure out another flavor, you
Yeah, what the
jackass.
fuck is
You know
not
what I'm
doing?
saying?
Yeah.
So like, that's just how I live my life with people like that constantly challenging me. I don't
Yeah.
call them doubters. I say thank you to those people
I
because
agree,
they
man.
constantly keep me on my toes, reminding me that I do have to keep reinventing myself and that I do have to keep moving forward and progressing, man. You know?
And you don't do it for the money. That's such a key. You do it because you love it, and then the success comes from that.
Man.
Yeah, it's not money is the byproduct of doing what you love or what you're passionate about. So I think
People
you're gonna
never
be
get
great,
that,
dude.
man. They just don't get it. Like, even if you do get rich, the shortcut to rich is always like the most unfulfilling thing. and you're
Dude,
gonna
easy
lose
come,
it.
easy go.
Yeah,
Dude. It's,
man.
yeah.
No.
So-
yeah, man.
All right, so we'll wrap this up real quick. I got a couple rapid fire questions
Wrap
for
it
you,
up, wrap it
and then I've got a new portion of the show called "On This Day in Detroit History."
Yo, I love this.
I bet you can guess exactly what we're going to cover on that.
Oh, I love
So
this.
rapid fire.
Yep.
You saw Alex Trebek passed away. Yeah. Very sad.
Yeah, man.
Good Canadian hockey player, hosted Jeopardy for 50 years or whatever. Very sad. If you were to be a host or a participant on any game show, what would it be?
And a
A lot of people say Price is Right.
that's a good one, but no, what's the one?
Ninja Warrior.
The one that Wayne Brady hosts now.
Oh,
where they
whose
dress
line
up.
is it anyway?
No, they dress up and like it's so they guess the prices and whoever-
Supermarket sweep. That's what would be mine.
whatever
Producer
the host-
Zach, do you know what we're
whatever
talking
the
about?
One that Wayne
No?
Brady hosts right now, where he just clowns people all day, like all day. He just
Yeah.
insults people. Like I'm
So
like,
you'd want to be that host, the guy
Hell
that's just
yeah,
like,
dude.
the hell is wrong with you,
you know
idiot?
what I mean? You're just like a fried egg, man. Like
Yeah.
he just and it's Wayne Brady. Who
Yeah.
I am not. I used to be embarrassed to say I'm down for, but I am down for Wayne Brady.
Whatever, I
Man.
like Wayne
that
Brady.
dude's hilarious.
I like Wayne Brady. Did you see the protesters at TCF?
Yeah.
Do you have an opinion, or would you like to share an opinion? By all means, don't feel that you have to.
Yeah.
But that seemed to be a very big thing in Detroit news. It was intense at my office, at the TDL office. We were about 300 yards away. It was pandemonium. It was entitlement. It was one of the grossest displays of entitlement that I'd seen in a long time. So just to get, if you were wondering what I think about it,
Yeah, man. I mean, not what I mean, I don't know what I
Not a fan?
I mean,
I got you.
listen,
No
man.
problem. No problem.
No,
We'll move
I
on.
mean, I'm really, I could, this is, white people behaving badly is a theme for 2020. And so like that type of behavior,
Yeah.
like coming from Virginia, I heard some people were from, from all over, they're not even from Detroit. And I get it. You're mad, but you're, the bigger picture of what's going down right now is how crazy it is to me that literally the president of the United States has barricaded himself.
Yeah, you think that he's hunkering down.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we are on the cusp of seeing something we've never even imagined. You know what I mean? Like this
That's
man,
already, that point's already passed.
right,
Yeah.
right. But I'm saying even more so, like we're about to be like when people are talking about civil war, I've never been more convinced that it is about to. How
We've talked about
what
that.
better way
We've
to set
candidly
off a
talked about
civil
this.
war than to rip a country apart by saying its system doesn't work. So now you've created this thing, my side versus your side, and an incredible doubt in the system that we all subscribe to,
Yeah.
which is the America democracy. And
Life,
so
liberty, and
now-
the pursuit of happiness.
and that's what's going down here. And so like we're ripping that apart, man. And so when you're talking about a civil war, what better time than to have a bunch of people who don't care? All these people, and I know this is the rapid fire thing, but all these people on Trump's side, they're not understanding. They don't want America anymore. Like they're saying, we want America, but they want their version of America. Okay. They don't want America.
Yeah, okay.
And so that's you. There's no reason there. And so how do you have that conversation?
I
Like
don't
how
know.
does a reasonable group of people who are saying, what do you want? And the other side saying, We don't even really know what the fuck we want.
Yeah.
But we know what we don't like, and that's black people. So let's deal with that. Like,
Yeah.
we're in a crazy time right now, man.
We are. Well, I always say absolutely choose sides, because silence only encourages the oppressor, never the oppressed. So
Yeah.
I was going to transition from that into what are you watching on Netflix, but that seems kind of like
No,
a silly
man,
question
I mean,
now.
we can
So-
No, man.
I'm watching a lot of Schitt's Creek, Lost. I'm into Lost.
I tried Schitt's Creek. I just didn't get into it.
Oh, I love it.
I don't know. Netflix.
All right.
I'm out of love with Netflix right now.
That's all right. Seen any good movies lately?
Nah, I'm more HBO Max.
Okay,
You
bro,
know-
go see Tenet.
Okay.
Tenet. It's Christopher Nolan Christopher Nolan's new movie.
Okay.
Did you ever see Inception?
Yes.
Okay, it's that guy.
Okay.
So whereas Inception is his version of a heist movie, this is his version of a time travel whatchamacallit movie. Not a heist movie, time travel spy movie.
Okay.
So
No, I'll
it's
check it out, man.
fucking it's dope, dude.
I've seen the name popping up.
Yeah, check it out. So, okay, today, November 14th. Today is Friday, November 14th, when this is being released. Today, in Detroit history, in 2007, Quicken Loans. We all love Quicken Loans, right? I mean, whatever, dude. Quicken Loans moved to downtown Detroit. The November 14th, 2007 Detroit News reported that there's good news in Detroit today with the announcement that Quicken Loans will move its headquarters into the city. The mortgage companies, let me flip my page here. The mortgage company's move from Livonia bolsters Detroit's revival and further legitimizes the city as a place for companies to locate. So shout out Dan Gilbert if you want to come on a podcast. We would love to have you, Uncle Dan.
Uncle Dan,
So,
man. That was a crazy. I didn't know what that meant. I
No,
knew
coming down, right?
I
Because we
knew
had
what it meant,
CompuWare.
but I didn't
CompuWare was
know-
already here.
If you'd have told me, 10 years later, 15 years later, whatever, there'd be scooters everywhere and a cause statue in the middle of downtown.
Yeah, the cause
and-
statue is pretty sweet. Do you like the scooters?
No.
I liked them for the first 3 weeks to a month. The first summer, I was on that hard, just zipping around. Ding, ding, ding. Now, not a chance.
I don't dislike the scooters. I love look, I'm such an old man, dude.
Yeah.
Young Jason would have been jumping off shit on those things.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
I love them.
Let me
Old Jason
kick flip it.
wants more regulations and less people breaking arms
Yeah.
and flying out.
Well,
in
I
traffic.
agree completely. There needs to be complete
But-
regulation on it because all they do is they park them right in the middle of the fucking road.
Yeah.
And and let one person hit a senior citizen of Detroit on one of those things, and I would lose my mind. So, all right, come back again.
I might be able to.
I got a good feeling about this,
I
Jason.
might be. I feel good about this too,
I know.
man. You know what I mean? I'm usually chilling. I think I could maybe.
I think
see what's up.
we'll yeah,
see.
absolutely. All
see.
right, Jason Hall, everybody, please go check out the website www.thedetroitlocal.com. Coming up on Sunday, and Jason will be there as well as producer Zach. We are doing a tour of the James Scott Memorial Fountain on Belle Isle. Kicks off at 12:30. Suggested $20 donation. Come down, check it out. You get to see all the underground inner workings. Mask up, socially distanced. It's gonna be pretty dope. So I know you're looking forward to that.
I didn't even know there was an under the fountain.
yeah.
Like I'm ready.
There's so much cool shit in Detroit. I feel like you and I need to explore. What do you think?
Oh, I got some.
Yeah,
I got
yeah.
some shit.
If you have any contacts, if you want to be featured on here, if you know if somebody wants to be featured on here, reach out to us, info@thedetroitlocal.com. We're going to play you out with a song by one of my favorite Detroit artists. His name is Mister. This song is off of his album Approaching Land, featuring Capelli. So the album's Approaching Land by Mister and Kurt Cataract. This song is called The Payoff by Mister featuring Capelli. Check it out. Got any last words?
Man, no, I'm excited about a new future with the new president, man. So let's move forward.
My man, one love. All right, thank you.
I have been a rich man and I have been a poor man, and I choose rich every fucking time. Because at least as a rich man, when I have to face my problems, I show up in the back of a limo wearing a $2,000 suit and a $40,000 gold fucking watch.
I raised raise a toast to the rejects and boast on my regrets and contemplate on consequences that I cannot see yet. Rocking with this 9 to 5 until I see MC checks. But am I living my life alive for accolades and respect? Don't dance around the question, don't you deflect. I still envision catching rhythm live on your TV set. Sitting with some liquor, mixing shit I ain't released yet. How could I stop when I ain't reached my peak yet? I still got dreams, racking up 100 million streams. And women feeling fitted, denim busting out the seams. All lining up to line my bank account with plenty green. It's funny how my life keep finding ways to intervene. I'm setting up to settle down with a wife that wants stability, and I don't wanna be the type to let her down. I need my pockets thicker than a triple feather down with a narrow window to win. I'm chasing my blessings now. Yo, but which way to the payoff? Play it safe and work your way into a layoff. Pick a side, do or die, roll the dice. Sacrificing, but you still don't know the price. Yo, but which way to the payoff? Play it safe and work your way into a layoff. Pick a side, do or die, roll the dice. Sacrificing, but you still don't know the price.
I've got a head full of stress, just trying to make the best of what's left, of what's left, of what's left, left. I've got a head full of stress, just trying to make the best of what's left, of what's left, of what's left.
And now I find myself once again at a fork in the road. I'm monologuing, tipping dominoes and cracking the code. Spinning plates, wondering what it's like. For my next trick, I'm gonna turn the fork to a butter knife. Cause I mean, as much as I've been thinking, the road splits. I'm slowly understanding its illusion to own it. And that looks to be the only way to approach it. Moving right along, now you see it and now you don't. It's like,
yo, but which way to the payoff? Play it safe and work your way into a layoff. Pick a side, do or die, roll the dice. Sacrificing, but you still don't know the price. Yo, but which way to the payoff? Play it safe and work your way into a layoff. Pick a side, do or die, roll the dice. Sacrificing, but you still don't know the price.